remember the voice. In 2010, a 10-year-old girl named Jackie Evancho stood on the massive America's Got Talent stage, and with the first note of "O mio babino caro," the world just stopped. Judges were speechless. Jaws were on the floor. It was the voice of an angel, a powerhouse opera singer trapped in the body of a little kid. But what happens when the angelic music cuts out? What happens after the confetti is swept away? Behind the curtain, a private war was being waged against an enemy no one could see. This is the untold story of the battle that almost cost her everything, a battle for her voice, her health, and her very identity. Back in 2010, Jackie Evancho wasn't just a contestant on a reality show, she was a phenomenon. This little girl from Pittsburgh walked onto the America's Got Talent stage and did the impossible. She opened her mouth, and a voice poured out that seemed to belong to another era. It was impossibly powerful, pure, and mature. Night after night, she captivated millions. Even though she came in second, let's be honest, she had already won the hearts of a nation. Almost overnight, Jackie Evancho was a household name, a classical crossover prodigy who shattered records. She became one of the youngest solo artists to go platinum in the U.S. and was the top-selling debut artist of 2010. It looked like a perfect fairy tale, but the brightest stars often cast the darkest shadows. The story of what happened after. AGT is far more complex and painful than the angelic image we all saw on our screens. It's a story of suffocating pressure, a secret illness that ravaged her body, and a young woman's fight to find her own voice, not just in music, but in life. So, what really happened to Jackie Evancho? It's a journey through the treacherous landscape of child stardom and a testament to the resilience of to really get the weight that landed on her shoulders, you have to go back to the beginning. Before the sold-out concerts, there was just a girl with a wild gift. Jackie started singing after she saw the movie version of The Phantom of the Opera. It was like a switch flipped. Her mom heard her singing along to the songs and was just stunned. This wasn't a kid humming a tune, this was something else entirely. Her parents entered her into local talent shows, and she started building a small following on YouTube. But it was America's Got Talent that launched her from a Pittsburgh prodigy to a global sensation. Her audition, singing the Puccini aria "O mio babino caro," left everyone speechless. How could that sound come from that tiny person? Judge Howie Mandel summed it up perfectly. We're in the presence of an angel. Week after week, she delivered these performances that were not only technically perfect, but also full of emotion. She didn't just sing the notes, she seemed to understand the soul of the music, which baffled seasoned critics. Her time on the show was a cultural moment. People who'd never listened to classical music were tuning in, mesmerized. She made it to the finals, and while she finished in second place, it was really just a technicality. A record deal was coming. The world wanted more Jackie Evancho, and the world got it. Right after AGT, she signed with SYCO and Columbia Records. In November 2010, her first EP, "Oh Holy Night," debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. This made her the best-selling debut artist of 2010 and one of the youngest top 10 debut artists in U.S. history. The EP went platinum, making her one of the youngest solo artists to ever hit that milestone in America. A star wasn't just born, she had exploded. At just 10 years old, Jackie was already a titan in the recording industry. But no one, least of all Jackie herself, could have predicted the price of that promise. The years right after America's Got Talent were a blur of success. The industry knew they had something special, and they moved fast. Her first full-length album, Dream With Me, came out in June 2011. It was produced by the legendary David Foster, who Jackie called her musical dad, and it was a masterpiece. It even featured duets with giants like Barbra Streisand and Susan Boyle, which shows you the kind of respect she commanded. The album debuted at number 2, cementing her status as a commercial powerhouse. She even became the youngest artist to ever debut in the top 5 in the UK. The awards just kept coming. Billboard magazine named her the top classical albums artist of 2011. She released another hit Christmas album, Heavenly Christmas, and became one of the youngest people ever to give a solo concert at New York's famous Lincoln Center. She was everywhere. She starred in her own PBS specials, which became fundraising staples for the network. She toured the world, playing for sold-out crowds. She even dipped her toes into acting in the 2012 Robert Redford thriller, The Company You Keep. Album after album followed, with a staggering 8 of her releases hitting #1 on the U.S. classical charts. On the surface, it was a dream life. She was collaborating with her heroes and earning global acclaim, but underneath it all, the pressure was crushing. She wasn't just Jackie anymore. She was Jackie Evancho, a brand, an angel, a prodigy, and she was expected to be perfect all the time. Perfect voice, perfect manners, a perfect image for her fans. In interviews from that time, you see this poised, professional young girl, but you can also see the weight of the persona she was carrying. While other kids were dealing with middle school awkwardness, she was dealing with global fame. The entire world was watching her grow up, scrutinizing her appearance, her voice, her every move. This constant focus would soon plant the seeds of a devastating internal struggle, one that would start to crack the flawless facade. When you're a kid in the adult world of entertainment, the line between who you are and who you're told to be can basically disappear. For Jackie, the 10-year-old angel identity was powerful and profitable, but as she hit her teenage years, that identity started to feel like a cage. The world wanted her to stay the same, but her body had other plans. The pressure to be perfect started to show up in a really damaging way. Puberty, a normal process for any kid, became a source of intense anxiety. Her body was changing, and in her mind, it was betraying the image she was supposed to maintain. That, combined with the relentless demands of her career, created the perfect storm for a mental health crisis. Jackie later revealed that her battle with an eating disorder started when she was just 15. It began quietly, as a way to control something. In her life, when everything else felt totally out of her control, she was surrounded by adults, schedules, and expectations. What she ate was one of the few things she felt she could command. Anorexia nervosa began to take hold. She was living 2 lives. To the world, she was the smiling, angelic singer. But, behind the scenes, she was fighting a war against her own body. The illness was a secret, hidden from her fans, and for a while, even from those closest to her. This was the start of a long, dark journey. The angelic voice that brought joy to millions belonged to a young woman who was becoming profoundly, dangerously unhappy. The pressure to be perfect had become an internal monster, and the first cracks in her pristine image were about to lead to a total shattering. By 2017, Jackie was a seasoned pro, but nothing could have prepared her for what was coming. That January, at 16 years old, she accepted an invitation to sing the national anthem at Donald Trump's presidential inauguration. She didn't see it as a political statement. To her, it was a patriotic honor, a chance to perform for her country. The backlash was immediate and brutal. In the deeply divided political climate, her performance was seen by many as an endorsement of the new administration. She was torn apart on social media by critics who accused her of betraying her fans. She was no longer just a singer. She was suddenly a political symbol in a culture war she never intended to join. The whole thing got way more complicated and painful because of what was happening in her own family. Her older sister, Juliet, had recently come out as transgender. At the very same time, the Trump administration was rolling back federal protections for transgender students. Suddenly, Jackie's performance seemed to directly contradict her family's reality. But this is where her story gets even more complex. While dealing with the fallout from the inauguration, Jackie became a fierce advocate for her sister and for transgender rights. To her, there was no contradiction. Singing for the country was one thing, but standing up for her family was everything. She used the spotlight from the controversy to speak out, requesting a meeting with the president to discuss the horrors faced by transgender people like her sister. She publicly affirmed her love and support for Juliet, writing, "My sister is transgender and she is a brave human being. I know the struggles she has faced and the discrimination she has endured." Then she aimed her disappointment directly at the administration's policy. It was a brutal, public lesson in the high cost of fame and the impossibility of staying neutral in a divided world. It also forced her to find a new kind of voice, not her operatic soprano, but the voice of an advocate and a sister. While Jackie was navigating that public firestorm, her private world was also falling apart. Her unwavering support for her sister, Juliet, was a central part of who she was. She spoke openly about Juliet's journey, and in doing so, became an important and visible ally for transgender rights. But behind this united front, the Evancho family itself was fracturing. In 2020, Jackie's parents, Lisa and Michael, announced they were getting a divorce. For Jackie, who saw her parents' marriage as the foundation of her life, the news was devastating. It was the end of the family unit that had guided her through her incredible rise to fame. The divorce happened during the chaos of the pandemic, leading to some very strange living arrangements. She described living in a house where her newly separated parents and their new partners were all under the same roof for a while. Adding to the complexity, the family was also supporting a young transgender man who had been rejected by his own family. It was a house in constant transition and turmoil. This period forced Jackie to completely rethink what family, love, and stability meant. The perfect family she thought she had was gone, replaced by something much more complicated and real. It was a painful and confusing time, but it was also a period of immense personal growth. She was learning to navigate complex adult problems while still dealing with her own health struggles. The fairy tale image was now completely gone, revealing a young woman facing the same raw, messy struggles that so many people face. While the external storms raged, the private war Jackie was waging against her body was becoming a full-blown crisis. Her struggle with anorexia had become the defining feature of her private life. She later described going days without eating, feeling emotionally numb and physically drained. The eating disorder she thought gave her control was actually destroying her health from the inside out. The terrifying truth came crashing down in January 2021. She was in a car accident. And while it was minor, the consequences were not. She broke her back in 2 places. When doctors looked at her x-rays, they were shocked. As she told People magazine, they were abnormal breaks that you see in 80-year-olds. That's when she got the devastating diagnosis. Her long-term battle with anorexia had starved her bones of nutrients, leading to severe osteoporosis. It was a horrifying wake-up call. The disorder she used to feel in control had made her body fragile and brittle. She was in her early 20s with the bones of an elderly woman. The diagnosis meant there was no more hiding. She had to get help. She enrolled in an inpatient facility and began the grueling process of recovery. This meant facing the deep psychological issues fueling the disorder and, just as hard, learning to eat again. For someone with anorexia, the necessary weight gain is a massive psychological trigger. She spoke with heartbreaking honesty about this time, realizing she couldn't keep pretending to be the 10-year-old girl the world fell in love with. That girl was gone. The diagnosis was a low point, but it was also a turning point. It stripped away the last bits of the fairy tale and forced her onto the long, hard path toward real healing. Her fight was no longer about her career. It was a fight for her life. Jackie's journey is a powerful reminder that behind every public figure is a human being with their own battles. If you're finding this story compelling, take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future deep dives, and let us know in the comments, what's your most vivid memory of watching Jackie Evancho for the first time? Now let's get back to how Jackie began to reclaim her life. Coming out of that health crisis, Jackie Evancho began the slow work of rebuilding her life. Recovery isn't a straight line. It's a daily choice to be healthy. She dove into intensive therapy, including treatments like EMDR, which is designed to help people heal from trauma. A huge part of her recovery was a mental shift. She had to consciously tear down the ideal of perfection that had haunted her for over a decade. She talked about how exhausting it was to live for 10-year-old me, knowing she wasn't that person anymore. She had to give herself permission to be messy and flawed. Her struggles didn't make her weak. They made her relatable. Music, which had been a source of so much pressure, became her therapy. It was a safe space to process her pain and hope. She started writing her own songs, channeling her experiences into lyrics that were raw and personal. This was a huge change from her early career of singing classical covers. Songwriting gave her a sense of authenticity she'd never felt before. She was no longer just a voice. She was an artist telling her own story. She's been open that the fight isn't over. Recovery is a continuous journey, but she's moving forward with a new attitude. As she told a local paper, "I'm sick and tired of feeling like I'm not living my life for me. There's no point in doing what I love if people don't get to know me for me now." And with that, she basically said, "F it." This was the start of a new era. She was determined to fight for herself, use her music as her motivation, and reclaim her life on her own terms. The angel was gone, and in her place stood a warrior. This personal transformation naturally led to a profound artistic one. The pristine, classical crossover sound that made her famous just didn't fit anymore. She needed a new musical language to tell her story. Her appearance on The Masked Singer in 2020 as the Kitty was a key moment. The anonymous costume gave her the freedom to experiment. She sang pop, she sang jazz, and she surprised everyone with her versatility. When she was unmasked, she explained that she did the show to reintroduce herself as an adult artist who could do much more than opera. That confidence led to a total musical reinvention. In 2024, she released a new EP called Sola. It was a bold move, co-produced with Greg Camp from the rock band Smash Mouth, and it's full of 80s new wave pop vibes. The title, Solai, is deeply meaningful. Jackie explained it comes from an incantation you whisper to celebrate losing something you loved, letting it go into the past. For her, it meant letting go of the 10-year-old prodigy and embracing the 24-year-old woman she is now. The songs on the EP are a direct reflection of her journey. The single, Behind My Eyes, is an upbeat track that explores her struggles with mental health. Another track, Consequences, was a song she wrote when she was just 15, a raw look at the struggles she was facing even back then. For the first time, fans were hearing Jackie's own words and her own truth. This shift to pop doesn't mean she's abandoned her classical roots. She's assured fans she'll always love that music. But the new sound is an authentic expression of who she is right now. It's the sound of an artist who has been through the fire and come out with a clear vision. She's not just a vocalist anymore. She's a songwriter, a co-producer, and the architect of her own identity. As of late 2024 and heading into 2025, Jackie Evancho is fully embracing her new chapter. Her EP, Sola, released in May 2024, is the cornerstone of her new pop identity. Her lead single, Behind My Eyes, made a significant mark, getting radio play and climbing the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart. Throughout 2024, she performed intimate concerts at venues like 54 Below in New York City in a show she called Jackie Evancho My Story. The shows are a mix of her new original songs and old fan favorites, basically chronicling her entire journey for the audience. Looking ahead, her schedule for 2025 shows she's still focused on live performing, but on a smaller, more deliberate scale than the massive tours of her childhood. It suggests a more balanced approach to her career where her well-being comes first. She's active on social media, sharing updates and glimpses into her creative process. Fan sites noted that in early 2025, she took a brief step back to breathe and process, before returning with a promise to share more of herself through her music, and even released new songs called Worthy and Case 23 in March 2025. Beyond music, she's expressed interest in acting and modeling. Her journey is one of ongoing self-discovery. She's transformed from a child prodigy into a multifaceted adult artist. Jackie Evancho today is a testament to resilience, defined not by her past success or struggles, but by her courageous fight to forge her own future. The story of Jackie. Evancho pulls back the curtain on child stardom, revealing the immense pressure and personal sacrifice that can come with it. We met her as a 10-year-old angel with a supernatural voice. For years, the world celebrated the prodigy, unaware of the storm brewing inside the person. Her journey has been a trial by fire. She faced a public political controversy, the painful breakup of her family, and a life-threatening battle with an eating disorder that led to osteoporosis. Any one of those things could break a person. Jackie faced them all under a relentless public spotlight. But her story isn't a tragedy. It's one of resilience. The young girl, trapped by a perfect image, fought her way to becoming a woman who embraces her imperfections. The vocalist who sang other people's songs is now a songwriter telling her own raw, honest truth. What really happened to Jackie Evancho is that she grew up. She survived the often toxic machinery of fame and confronted the demons it helped create. She is still here, still singing, but now she is finally singing in a voice that is entirely her own.